receive. So so it does mean, what you're going to say tonight does mean something. So please, share with us. And I just say this, some people are asking me why we're doing a virtual session. And the reason we chose a virtual session is because the last EIA, a lot of members of the local community didn't get to speak because the event was dominated by some people from outside of the area. And we really want to give local residents an opportunity to speak, and also there won't be any argument about whether a question was said or not said or answered. So again, that's the purpose of this process. And I guess with that, can I pass it to Marco now?
Please do.
All right. Sorry, I hope I didn't take too long there.
All good. We'll hand it over to you, Marco, to present an overview of the project.
Great, thank you very much, Jennifer. So, yeah, thanks to everyone for attending this public information session. We're going to start with a presentation that summarizes the project, discusses some of the benefits for the region, has an overview of the EIA process, and also identifies potential concerns that were identified during the EIA process. And then after the presentation, there'll be opportunity for people to ask questions as mediated by Jennifer Brown, who's with us. So just to remind everyone, so the Fundy Regional Service Commission is the proponent of this project. They operate the landfill. It's among the many tasks they have as a regional service commission. And GEMTech, Consulting Engineers and Scientists, we are the engineering and environmental consultant for Crane Mountain Landfill, and we've been involved with the landfill since it was originally sited. So just a bit of history on the landfill. The Crane Mountain Landfill opened to the public in 1997, so it's been operating for about 26 years. There have been 9 containment cells constructed to date. There's about 8 more cells to be constructed until it is at capacity, for a total of 17 cells. The landfill was sized for about 4.8 million cubic meters of municipal solid waste or garbage. And based on tonnages that were being received at the time and projections in the future, that was estimated to be about 40-year life for the landfill. Right now, the landfill is at about 50% capacity. There's remaining volume of 2.4 million cubic meters. And this remaining capacity is projected to have enough space for waste for the region until 2048. So that's well beyond the original 40-year estimate for the landfill, and that's largely in part due to successfully implemented waste diversion programs, including recycling and composting, that has been conducted by the landfill. So as currently approved, the landfill can place garbage or waste to a geodetic elevation of plus 90 meters. So geodetic elevation, that's in reference to mean sea level. So the top of the landfill is about 90 meters above mean sea level. Now that doesn't mean there's a 90-meter high pile of waste there. The bottom of the landfill cell is above mean sea level, and at the highest point, waste is about 20 meters thick. Here is a overall site plan. It may become useful during the question and answer session. It shows the approved footprint of the landfill. So the highlighted orange area with some shapes on it from 1 to 8, that is previously filled containment cells. So those are the cells that have been filled with garbage up to date. The active cell, cell 9, is highlighted red, and the future expansion areas are the yellow highlighted areas. As you can see, there's other infrastructure located at the landfill. We have composting facilities, recycling facilities, scales, public drop-off, ponds, and buildings. So just a quick overview of the project on a a high level. The proposal here that is being proposed by the landfill is to increase the maximum allowable height for garbage up to elevation 117.5 meters elevation. That's an increase of 27.5 meters from the approved height now. Now, based on geometry, only a small area of the landfill will actually ever reach that maximum height, because the plan is to maintain the 4:1 external slopes, these stable slopes of garbage. And the elevation 117.5 was determined based on having a safe working area for the trucks and equipment on top of the landfill. As mentioned, the project is to raise the elevation of the landfill. It's not to increase the footprint of the landfill. So the current landfill footprint, that highlighted area in the last picture, will remain the same. It's just the waste will be piled higher. This will extend the life of the landfill by 22 years, approximately 22 years. It utilizes existing infrastructure, so that includes everything from roads to buildings. But importantly, the containment liners and leachate collection systems will be utilized as with the waste piled higher. The project is not to expand areas that the landfill services. That will remain the same. It's just going to service the Fundy region as it does now. And I guess, these vertical expansions of landfills, these are becoming quite common in North America across the whole jurisdiction. So as we looked at this, the summary of the benefits of this project, it extends the life of the current landfill and maximizes the capacity of an existing landfill site. It will provide an additional 2.4 million cubic meters of capacity for waste. So that's about a 50% increase in capacity over what's approved now. As mentioned, it utilizes existing infrastructure. So the buildings, roads, scales, that all will still continue to be used for this project. And that creates, some significant savings by being able to use the existing infrastructure. This reduces construction, operation, and maintenance costs, and we'll go into a little bit further detail on the next slide on that. The project will not increase the amount of leachate generated at the site, because leachate is basically a function of open area and footprint of the landfill. And this project the open areas of the landfill will remain similar to what they are now. So there'll be no change in leachate production rates. When the landfill has been filled and is at the higher elevation, the steeper slopes and the pyramid shape will actually improve drainage and should cut down on leachate production because it'll cut down infiltration through the final cover once the landfill is closed. And as Mark discussed, this is a sustainable approach. So a little bit more details on the costs and the benefits to the communities and residents. So one of the largest costs here for the landfill is building new containment cells. These pictures here kind of show some of the construction process. So they're placing the clay liner material in that top picture, compacting with a bulldozer. And then the bottom picture is a completed cell before waste is placed in the cell. Each cell costs about $4 million. And recently the cells have been designed to hold about 3 to 4 years of waste. By increasing the volume that the finite area can hold, that lowers the cost per ton of the site. This project is anticipated to save about $1 million a year for the landfill and the Service Commission. And that's about $22 million over the extended life of the landfill. And that's in 2022, 2023 dollars. So with inflation, the actual real dollars will be much higher than that over the course of the job of the project. So tipping fees are mainly what are used to pay for construction, and reducing construction costs could have beneficial effect on the tipping rate in the future. And this will benefit all users. So that includes municipalities, residents, and businesses of the region. I'm now going to throw it over to Jennifer Hashey to give a high-level review of the environmental impact assessment process.
Thanks, Marco. So as we know, GEMTEC was retained by the Fundy Regional Service Commission to complete the EIA process. We initiate this process by engaging Department of Environment to do an initial screening of the project to determine if there is a need for the EIA. We've done this, and they have determined that it is considered a significant modification of the existing facility and thus is subject to the provincial regulation. So GEMTEC developed the EIA document. This includes describing the existing conditions and what interactions the project might have with the environment over its lifetime. Through the EIA process, we identify both positive and negative impacts, and we must propose mitigations for any negative impacts that are identified. So once the document has been developed, we do a formal registration with Department of Environment, and they circulate it through their technical review committee. After that, the approval is administered by the Minister of Environment. So we've undertaken this process for both the Fredericton Regional Landfill and the Northwest Regional Landfill in Edmundston, and they have both been approved for the height increase. And this circles back to Marco's comment that this is becoming a common practice in North America. So this slide gives just a summary overview of the EIA process. We've completed our initial screening with Department of Environment and thus started the EIA registration document. It was formally registered with the Department of Environment. So those two items are complete. We are currently undergoing a review by the technical review committee. We've just received their second round of comments, and we're required to answer and address any concerns that they have. And we're also engaging the public, First Nations, and stakeholder groups that might be interested in the project. So as of now, we have sent over 2,000 notices to nearby residents. And we've also put a notice in the Telegraph Journal newspaper, letting people know about this meeting tonight, as well as the overall project. We've mailed letters to all mayors in the Fundy Region catchment area. We've mailed letters to all First Nation communities in New Brunswick, and we've had direct correspondence with the Crane Mountain Enhancement Inc. group. That leads us to tonight, where we have a meeting with about 30 people in attendance. And following this meeting, we will develop a summary report and submit the recording of this meeting to the Department of Environment as part of the EIA process. So on that, I'm going to circle back to our EIA document, and Marco's going to summarize some of our findings.
Thank you, Jennifer. So yeah, as Jennifer noted, the EIA is a process which identifies potential concerns, and mitigations are also developed through that EIA process. So through the EIA process, we're able to conclude that there are no additional environmental impacts expected from the increased landfill height. This is largely due to there's no increase in the landfill footprint. There's no destruction of wildlife habitat that isn't already approved for the landfill. There's no removal of forest vegetation that isn't already approved for the landfill. And that goes the same for water courses and wetlands. They will not be altered as part of the project. And we've gone through the engineering analysis as well, looking at the existing liner and leachate collection infrastructure that contains the waste and collects the leachate. And these components are more than capable of supporting the intended loads from higher waste deposits. And we did identify potential concerns as a part of the process. There's three main potential concerns that did become identified. The main ones being odorous emissions, wind-blown debris, potential for wind-blown debris, and potential visual impacts from having the landfill at a higher elevation. So all these items are currently regulated by the Department of Environment and Local Government through the approval to operate that the landfill is required to operate by. So they already need to control their odorous emissions, their wind-blown debris, and they have to maintain things like tree buffers around the property. These issues of odorous emissions and wind-blown debris, there's already existing mitigations for those potential concerns. So for example, for odorous emissions, the application of intermediate and final cover regularly helps to contain the odorous emissions, landfill gas, and the landfill has been doing quite a capping development over the past few years to help reduce the landfill gas emissions. They also expand their landfill gas collection system regularly. I'm not going to go into great detail on landfill gas. We can certainly talk about it in the question and answer segment here, but landfill gas is produced in the landfill and it is collected by a series of wells, pipes, and it is combusted in a flare or generator at the site. So that's already done to collect the additional gas collected, produced at the landfill at the higher elevations. There'll be expansion of landfill gas wells. And the picture on this slide shows some drilling that was done earlier this year, the installation of additional landfill gas wells that are being brought on to service as we speak. They're working on connecting those to the system with pipes. In addition to landfill gas system expansions, a new landfill gas master plan was developed by Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech is a leader in North America regarding landfill gas system design, construction, and operation. Their new landfill gas master plan takes into account that there'll be removal of existing final cover to go higher, and waste will be placed on top of an old landfill. So they've developed some ideas that should help to ensure the landfill gas is effectively captured over the course of the project. In terms of wind-blown debris, the landfill maintains a tree buffer around the site. They've continued to do so. That helps contain the garbage that could be blown around, and they also use a movable fencing system to help on windy days to keep that going. And another effective method to contain wind-blown debris that's used now and will be continue to be used and expanded is the application of cover material or soil as needed over top of the waste. When it comes to visual impacts, we also looked at some extensive modeling. I'll kind of go show a few displays on that. But basically, through the process and by looking at the mitigations that are required for these concerns, none of these were deemed to be significant due to the existence of appropriate mitigation measures that will continue to be implemented and expanded as needed. Please take a look at our registration document for additional details. It goes into details about all different concerns and the ways that they can be mitigated. And we're happy to discuss these further tonight as well. So a little bit more about the visual impact analysis. So we constructed a model using publicly available data, and we use this data to do several different methods to determine the potential visual impacts. And this is presented in detail in the EIA registration document. So the model was analyzed using a software called Viewshed Analysis. And what this figure is showing, you've got the landfill here, this green shape in the middle of the drawing. The yellow highlighted areas are areas that are visible with the landfill built to the approved elevation of 90 meters. So that's what's shown here, where the yellow highlighted areas are. That's where the landfill will currently be visible as approved. The red highlighted areas are areas that the landfill will be approved if it is built up to the higher elevation of 117.5 meters elevation. So what's significant about this is, you're not seeing an increase in visibility in the residential areas surrounding the landfill. There's no additional red areas along the River Road, the Morna, Martinon, and into Grand Bay. So this demonstrates that the visual impact will not be significant when compared to what's already experienced around the landfill. Here's another model that we constructed. So this is a familiar view for everyone, I'm sure, heading north on Route 7 as you're leaving St. John. The landfill is, you can see this green, kind of drab green area. That's the landfill built up to elevation plus 90 meters. These are the compost buildings you can see as well. So we built a model to kind of demonstrate what it looks like as currently approved, and also what it would look like at the elevation of 117.5 meters. So, there's no, it will become more visible, but fortunately through our analysis, it's only in areas that it is currently already visible. So that is what we have to present as a part of this public information session. Again, my name is Marco Civitilli with Gemtech. This is Jennifer Hashi and Paul Vanderland, also with Gemtech. So in addition to asking a question at tonight's session, if you have a question that comes to mind after tonight, please email us via the email address is displayed on the screen, and we will respond to your questions. And these questions will also be included in our report to the Department of Environment and Local Government as a part of the EIA process. And the Fundy Region Service Commission is maintaining a dedicated website for this project. So please keep an eye out on that for additional information that may be posted. Jennifer, I think that's back to you. Oh, hi, Jennifer. I think you're still on mute.
I can't hear you.
Hi, folks. Better? There we go. Sorry about that. This is what happens when we control via app. All right. So thank you, Marco, for that presentation. We'll enter into the question and answer portion of the evening. A reminder, if you would like to ask a question, I ask that you hit the Q&A button at the top of your screen so that we're able to generate a list. Just a few reminders before we get started. So each person, again, one question with allowance for a follow-up question. In an effort to ensure everyone has a chance to provide feedback and ask questions, an individual can ask a follow-up question, but we would ask that you limit your time to 5 minutes so that we can cycle through the question queue at least once, and then we'll have time to get folks queued up a second time. You can also ask your question through just text in the question box as well, if you would prefer. I will let you know that you've got 5 minutes. So at 4 minutes, I'm just going to interrupt with a bit of a warning that you've got 1 minute left. We do ask that you refrain from repeating any questions that may have been answered, obviously within reason. There's some wiggle room there. Big thing here is we're going to ask that people remain respectful while presenting, asking, and also answering questions. Any use of disrespectful language, you'll be muted. We'll give you a warning, but then you'll be muted on that second behavior, if the behavior continues, I should say. So a reminder that any follow-up questions or feedback, like Marco just noted, can be submitted through the emails on the screen and through contact with the Fundy Regional Service Commission. So we'll take the first question. Right now, I'm not seeing any questions in your question box, so if you would like to raise your hand also, if you're not able to hit the question box. Just one moment there.
I'll say is that raise your hand in
You raise your hand up here. Yeah.
Perfect. So I've got Moira Adams first up.
Yeah. Whole family. I have a, I'm John Adams, Moira's husband.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm some things. I probably have 20 questions, and I'll start with just one and do as you say, just circle back in as we go. So first of all, I just wanted to confirm this was a desktop study, and that other than the wetlands delineation, there was no new boreholes drilled, there's no seismic, there's no ground penetrating radar work, there's no soil samples taken, there was no samples taken of the plants around the site and in the area. I just wanted to confirm that so that I'm clear.
Marco?
Hi, thank you, John. So no, you're correct there. There were no additional invasive geotechnical investigations as a part of this EIA. All that work was done back in 1997 when the landfill was sited and was determined to be an appropriate location for the landfill. These the EIA did take a look at the existing conditions that we already are aware of and confirmed that raising landfill, adding that extra waste will not create any issues for the landfill cells. It's still an appropriate use for the site.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
On the so in the report, there was one done by EXP, there was one, an older one, ADI. There was a lot identification of some fracturing, recommendation of additional monitoring wells. There was a number of recommendations that don't appear to have been followed or followed up on. So I do hear you that the original study is the original study. That's great, and it was done with what we knew at the time. But you know, they made a series of recommendations, and it doesn't appear that anything then has been done. Right? No new boreholes or monitoring wells between where the site is. There's lots of them at the site. There's very few between the site and the St. John River, and there was recommendations by, I guess it's used to be ADI, it's EXP, I guess. So that wasn't done, right? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you just said.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the report that was developed a few years ago concerning, you know, the monitoring at the landfill. And no, we had additional wells have not been implemented, but you know, all sampling is done in conformance with the approval to operate of the landfill that is regulated by the province of New Brunswick. So there's been no issues identified over years of monitoring, and the landfill has met all of its obligations under the approval to operate for sampling and monitoring.
Thanks, Marco. John, if you don't mind, we're just going to move on to the second question, and then we'll come back to you with to follow up on your additional question. I have John Dowd coming up next.
Oh.
Go ahead, John, when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Yeah, John Dowd, I'm chair of the Crane Mountain Enhancement Inc. We've actually got some of the board here and a couple of local residents here as well. I just wanted to state up front that CMEI is opposed to this online information session, and we would much prefer to have the residents have a face-to-face. My first question, and we will have many, so you can come back to me as we go, My first question is, will you be distributing a list of attendees to this with contact information?
Marco, you're on mute there, but I suspect
Yeah,
that's
sure,
a
no
question.
problem. No, so John, we won't be distributing people's contact information as a part of this environmental impact assessment, but we will be posting a video of the session on the website, and that's what we're planning on doing at this time. We're not going to distribute people's contact information.
Okay, thank you. Just to let you know, I can't get the question and answer app working on this computer. I don't know why.
You have time for a follow-up if you'd like, John.
Yeah, okay. Well, as I say, we've probably got several questions that we'd like to ask. The follow-up is this landfill is unique in at least in New Brunswick and probably in a lot of other places as well, as there are a large number of drinking water wells close to the landfill and downstream from the landfill. Is there any special consideration for those people who, if those wells ever do get polluted, it's a huge expense getting water to those people, and I don't know where that money is going to come from.
Sure. Thank you, John. Yes, I mean, we're aware of the downstream communities located along the St. John River, obviously. Those wells are monitored annually as part of a domestic well sampling. So there is monitoring going on there now, but there's been several studies conducted over the years by different parties, and they all generally conclude that the risks to the wells downstream in this area is very minimal, and that does not change with this project. With piling the waste to a higher elevation, the containment systems that are in place will continue to be effective. So I guess that's the answer. It has, it's obviously been considered. We've checked to make sure that the liners and the leachate collection system can support this project, and that has been concluded.
Thank you, Marco. John will move on for now. Are there other folks in line that are waiting for questions? I'm not seeing any folks in the Q&A. I'm also not seeing additional hands raised other than John, yourself, and we're coming back to John Adams as well. Anybody else on the call before we that's looking to ask a question or perhaps make a comment before we do a second round of comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move on back to John Adams.
You're on mute.
Oh, John, I think you're on mute there. You should be okay to go now. John, you're on mute, but you just have to unmute from, there you go. We're having a hard time hearing you, John. Perhaps we'll do a bit of troubleshooting with Mr. Adams, and we'll move on back to John Dow with a second question.
Yes, we have one of the residents has a couple of questions.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Oh, camera's up here. Okay. down so you can see me. I'm Mike Longa, and I'm actually a long time on the CMEI with this gang in years gone by. Was pretty involved in the monitoring committee of the CMEI. Really dig the great work that this organization has done over the years to keep a good eye on the landfill to the best of our ability through the CMEI. I've got a couple of questions for you, a couple observations of the presentation. I'm not sure if this is the entirety of the body of information that's going to be presented to us, the community, or not. But I'm just going to comment on what I've seen kind of so far. Or I'm going to raise 3 comments about what I've seen so far. The first one is, I got to wear my glasses, I can't read it. In your presentation, there's actually no mention of the impact from cover displacement. And what I mean is, where's the cover coming from? What's the long-term impact to local pits and quarries around Grande, Westfield, St. John from the displacement of the cover material? Second question, don't want to answer these. I'm gonna give you 3 questions and
Excuse, just 1 moment, please. We're just gonna give Marco a chance to answer your first question, and then we'll come back and answer your second question, just for sake of time, so we can have a clear answer for you. Marco?
Yes, thank you. It's Mike, correct?
Yeah.
So Mike, I think, are you asking this from like an economic perspective for like local
No,
contractors?
I'm asking from an environmental impact perspective. Not only the daily cover, but also the clay. Where's it coming from? What's the impact on the community from the trucking? What's the increase in material that the new landfill will require? The raising. What's the impact on daily cover and clay from the local community?
Sure. So in terms of clay, that's a part of the liner system. It's not used in daily cover or typically in final cover at Crane Mountain Landfill. Since this project is not expanding the landfill, it's not going to require any additional liner area to be constructed outside what is already approved. So there's really no issue in terms of liner materials. Daily cover material will continue to be used as required to cover the waste, and that will continue to be purchased at rates similar to what it is now over the course of the project. I think it's I think the commission would have a number of tons. It's into the thousands of tons a year, but it would remain relatively the same to what it is now. There's no expected annual increase in the requirements for cover material.
Okay, thank you. One more quick question, if I may.
Yep. Go ahead.
So my third question is a little bit different. So there's lots of new technology in waste energy, and in the expansion of our landfill for another, I don't remember how many years you said, where there doesn't seem to be a comparison to other options, as in I would cite what they're doing in Charlottetown to double the capacity of incineration. They're putting in a clean, modern system on the waterfront beside the existing 40-year-old system that's probably not so clean, not so often. But this system will reduce the oil consumption to eat the 3 consumers, the university, the hospital. And I'm just curious if there was ever an evaluation of other options, such as waste to energy, and that if it wasn't considered, I guess I'd say why not. And that's my third question, so I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you, Mike. That's a great question there about emerging technologies regarding waste. I guess looking at alternatives was outside the scope of this project. This EIA is about utilizing an existing facility and maximizing the use of that existing facility. So yeah, that was alternatives along the lines of what you're talking about weren't considered because for this EIA, it's outside the scope.
And I'll just add in the first question, the EIA document, the entire document is available online on the Department of Environment's website as well as the Fundy Region website. So you're welcome to read it entirely. It's not just limited to the information presented tonight.
Yeah, I guess that's in relation to what information is available to the public, and I guess in the registration document in its entirety, plus additional information is available on the Fundy Region Service Commission website. Yes, thank you, Jen.
Thank you, and thank you, Mike. John Adams, we've got your hand up again. We are having trouble hearing you. You may need to, I'm not sure if it's something you can fix on your end. You may need to hop out and join the call again in order to reset your mic. Because your mic is on, but we can't hear you. Sorry about that. John, we do have, I'm assuming, more questions in the room with John Dowd.
Yes, we do.
We'll put you next in line if you'd like.
So I rejoined. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, John, you're at.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'll let Mr. Adams ask his question, and then we'll get back to the room.
Okay.
So this one has to do with air quality, and so you make statements in the EIA document about the prevailing wind direction. You also make a statement here, according to the data, air quality data provided by the New Brunswick Department of Environment, local government. The nearest air quality monitoring station is located to the southeast, i.e. you make a big deal about the winds generally coming from the south. It's in 2 or 3 places in the document. So all these comments about what they observed mean absolutely nothing. In other words, we're on the other side of it, Grand Bay. You know, there's the windward side, there's the lee side, the lee side of it, and I'm not interested in the Bay of Fundy, what's coming across there. I'm interested in what's here. So really there should be, if we're going to talk about air quality monitoring, there's got to be equipment set up, even if it's temporary, maybe for a 1-year period. It should be on the other side of the facility. So if the winds are coming from the south, then it should be in the north. Not, hey, we got a station on the lee side, and it's totally irrelevant. So is there any comments from the people who wrote it? Can you hear me? No?
Yeah, we can hear you. Marco, is there perhaps an answer to the comment, or maybe a need for a clarifying question?
Jen's going to pitch in here. Yep.
Yeah, so that the air quality monitoring station was the closest publicly available data that we used to develop the EIA document. But I think it's a great comment that you brought up about your wind direction. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to know what's happening down in St. John, but I'd rather, yeah, that's fine.
Do you have a follow-up there, John? I think we might have lost we've lost your audio again there, John. We'll move back over to John Dowd if there's folks in the room who'd like to ask a question.
Yes, there is. John Bidgood, one of the committee members.
Hello there, I'm a local resident. I live about 4 kilometres away from the landfill. I didn't receive any mail, by the way, informing me about this meeting. I spoke to several of my neighbours, none of them had heard anything about this meeting, but that's not my question. You stated earlier that the current height of the landfill is 90 metres above sea level and proposing to 117.5 metres above sea level. At the moment, the garbages are approximately 20 metres thick in the cells. You want to add on 27.5, more than doubling thickness of garbage. Is that correct?
Hi. Sorry, I didn't catch your name there. If you don't mind repeating.
Don Bigwood.
Don.
Tom Simpson.
Tom Simpson. Thank you, Tom. Okay, thank you. So no, you're correct with that. That the proposed project here is to increase the height of waste deposited in the landfill in the highest points to by 27.5 meters. Yes, you're right.
More than double, yes?
Yes, that's right.
So my question is, you blandly sort of said that the liner and the whatever underneath the cells is sufficient to withstand that more than double height of garbage. I'd like to see your references to that information and what it's based on, because I'm, you know, my wife steps on my hardwood floor in her stiletto heels. That's one thing, but if she then picks up somebody of equal weight, I think it's going to damage my floor a heck of a lot more. Where is the evidence that the liner can withstand this more than double height?
You know, thanks for your question. The evidence, we've done some engineering analysis, you know, considering the additional weight, which took into account the material properties of the liner and also what the liner is sitting on. You know, it's sitting on a layer of glacial till material that's very strong, that is not going to be impacted by the additional weights. We've confirmed that through calculations.
Research evidence or not?
There's evidence and it's presented to the Department of Environment and through our analysis of the registration document, and it's been as a part of the EIA process. It's reviewed by the Technical Review Committee through questions as well. So that evidence has been provided.
Would like to see some references.
Sure. Just the easiest way to do that would be to send an email to the email shown on the screen, and we'll provide a response.
We're going, for the sake of time, we're just going where you've asked your question and the follow-up. I just want to move on quickly to the next person in line, but we will come back to you, sir. We're just going to move on to Karen Walsh, and we can come back to Tom. Karen, go ahead. Karen, you're on mute. There you go, Karen.
Okay, it said that it had to be you. Anyway, my comment is about visual impact. So in its current state, as you come over the hill heading north on Route 9, I feel the landfill already disfigures the panoramic view as you enter Grand Bay, Westfield. And also the garbage as you exit the landfill and head south towards St. John never seems to get removed. There's always garbage there, and sometimes quite a quantity. So more garbage, more trucks, more negative unsightly impacts. And I don't know what more you can do about that at this point. However, that's how I feel. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Tom, I believe. Somebody was speaking there. I'm not sure who.
You were going to answer your question.
Marco, did you have a comment to Karen's comment?
Sorry, no, I guess, thanks. I guess just thank you for the comment, Karen. You know, that I guess, not sure if there's a question there, but, you know, it's this comment will be, presented to the Department of Environment in our report as a part of the EIA on public consultation. So thank you.
Moving back to Tom.
You hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
So carrying on from the theme of the fact that we're going to have more than twice the thickness of garbage, you claim that there's going to be no change to the leachate. Well, there may be the same volume of leachate as the catchment size of the cell is going to be approximately the same. But that water is now going to be percolating through more than twice the depth of garbage. And I don't know, I teach science, but it would seem sensible to me to assume the concentration of the rather nasty chemicals we're going to find in the leachate is going to be double what it was previously if the water is percolating through twice the depth. Do you think that's a fair assumption?
Thanks again for the question. So, leachate is currently collected and treated in accordance with requirements, and that will continue to be done if the project proceeds with a higher elevation. Will the chemistry change? I guess as long as it's monitored and captured and treated and meets the regulations, that's all that matters, I guess.
It sounds to me there's an awful lot of as long as and these sort of hypothetical assumptions that it's going to be the best case scenario. And often those things are okay until something goes wrong. Our drinking water comes from this area, so it worries me greatly. I have other questions, but I think there's other people here who might want to ask questions as well. So I'll step aside for a moment, but I have more questions.
Thank you, Tom. We have John Adams in the queue, and then we'll go to Robert Gallagher. John?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. And this is a comment that I think what I'll do is I'll follow up with a list of examples in this EIA that I have a problem with. If we're on page 17, you have statements like the additional weight resulting from the proposed waste containment cell's height increase is not expected. Okay, you make statements like this throughout. You got another one on page 30. Gemtech has not completed a quantitative groundwater study as part of the EIA as a project, which if I was doing an EIA, I'd want to do that long before I put together an EIA document. And again, the same language is not expected to affect groundwater quality. That kind of language drives me batty as an engineer, retired engineer. Not expected, what does that mean? 5%, 10% probability, 50% probability. So there's a lot, those are two examples I'll send in the questions about it.
Nope. Thank you, John. So I'm going to hand it over to Paul Vanderland here to answer your question.
Hi, John. I think you raise a very valid point, and people that are not intimately familiar with environmental impact assessment processes often have that same concern. At the end of the day, an EIA is a predictive exercise to identify things that might happen as a result of a project being implemented. So as part of an EIA, the objective is to identify all these impacts that might occur. There's no guarantee that they will, but they might. And then should the project be approved, there are follow-up and compliance monitoring activities associated with the follow-up after the EIA or after the project is implemented that then confirm whether or not the predictions that were made in the EIA were in fact correct. And I've done this business for many, many years, and that is typically how EIAs are implemented. You predict and you outline what you expect to happen, and then there are follow-up and compliance monitoring activities that are implemented subsequent to the project being implemented, and then that either confirms the prediction, and if the prediction was not accurate, then additional mitigative measures may have to be employed. And if you look through some of the past EIA determinations that are on the Department of Environment and Local Government's website, you will see many of those conditions that say you shall have a monitoring program for X, Y, and Z and report on these accordingly. So it is very much within the nature of environmental impact assessments to predict what might happen to the best of our ability, which is then confirmed with follow-up monitoring after.
John, we've lost your mic again. But I will come back to you for a follow-up. We'll move on to Robert Gallagher. Robert, you just need to, you just need to unmute. So there you go.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
I'm Robert Gallagher with EXP Services and EXP ADI. Over the years, we've worked with the Crane Mountain Enhancement who's the advisory group that was set up under the original EIA for the landfill for the host community. And we've just had a technical review of the EIA registration document on their behalf. And on our team also, we had Dr. Kerry Rowe, who's with Queen's University. He's very well renowned in design of barrier systems, for internationally renowned for landfills and that sort of thing. And so we just would like a bit more information on the rationale that basically there's going to be essentially no impact on the liner. And I'm not going to go through all those questions in detail. Marco, we've already submitted those, but just in a nutshell though, like what work has been done to look at we're essentially doubling the mass of waste in the landfill, and what work has been done to estimate the contaminating lifespan, the extended contaminating lifespan of the waste. And then secondly, pairing that with the barrier system and the different components, the service lives of, say, the geomembrane and all the different components, getting at, it's only as good as the weakest link.
Yep, thank you, Robert. So yes, we received your technical review. We are going to be responding to that, so keep your eyes out for that. And yes, you raised some points in there about the liner and continuing lifespan of the landfill. At the end of the day, the landfill is regulated by the Department of Environment and Local Government, and the Commission will comply with any regulation requirements, and that includes post-closure monitoring after closure. So yeah, I think that that is our response for that. And we received your comments, and Kerry Rowe, we were very familiar with Mr. Rowe, and he actually was involved with the design of the leachate collection system at Crane Mountain Landfill through Gemtech. So yeah.
Okay.
Robert, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, no, I appreciate that, Marco. Appreciate that. But I just like to reiterate, I guess, what John Doubt was saying, in that, it's been stated here correctly that I think the Edmundston landfill has already been approved for an increase in the waste height. Fredericton, I believe, as well, although I'm not familiar with the details for the Fredericton site. But again, I just want to reiterate what John's already said is, in our opinion, this is a unique case of the 6 regional landfills in the province where we have about 1,000 downgradient water well users. And so I think that maybe, in our view, this would deserve a more rigorous approach, and to looking at some of these things. There's the technical issues, and then there's also the non-technical concerns as well, like aesthetics and stigma. But just a final comment too. Under this scenario, as I understand it, most of the liner is already built, so there would be no opportunity, presumably, to go back for any enhancements or mitigation measures. Is there any comment with respect to that? Say you wanted to go with a double composite liner system and that sort of thing. As I understand it, yeah, essentially that would just be, you couldn't deal with the entire footprint because most of the liner has been constructed all over the footprint of the facility already, correct?
Hi, Robert. I'll go back to our site plan here for reference. So yeah, here's kind of our drawing showing what's already been constructed in terms of cells, and you are correct that you know, the majority of the footprint has already been constructed, with the exception of cells 10 through 17, the yellow highlighted area. So you know, as a part of this EIA process, we've reviewed the additional loads on the liner and the underlying foundation soils and bedrock, and there's no concerns with the additional weight. So thank you for your comment. And as the and the liners are constructed in accordance with all Department of Environment requirements and regulations. So thank you.
Thanks, Marco. We're going to move on to Mary Reeves.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to Karen's comments, which are aesthetic, but they're also an impact on Grand Bay Westfield and the Westfield Road very specifically. The volume of truck traffic poses a danger to people in this area. I would comment that I believe Crane Mountain staff, in some which way, needs to be responsible for making sure that there is not garbage on the roads leading in and out of Crane Mountain. It has been a fairly long time that Crane Mountain has existed. I feel that as a community, we have dealt with it gracefully for the most part. But this, to me, is an excess. And as a community member, both who can smell it from time to time, who can see the garbage more often, and to know that for another 40 or 50 years, we are going to deal with this is rather discouraging. That's just my comment. I'm enjoying the scientific part of this because that's beyond my capacity. Mine is purely aesthetic and impact on our community.
Thank you, Mary. Moving on to the folks in with John Doe. I believe there was another question there.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, so Greg Snow, I'm on the CMEI committee as well. Yeah, we appreciate the science. Unfortunately, you're talking to a group, and I can't speak for everybody. Some are a lot more technical than I, but all I'm hearing are the pros. I'm not hearing a lot of cons other than the money aspect. But I have two comments here that you have made tonight, that no additional leachate and no additional cover material required. And I fail to grasp how you can double capacity and not increase leachate toxicity or quantity or your cover material. I don't comprehend. Grade 2 math tells me that if you double something, it doesn't stay the same from any aspect. And thank you.
Marco, we'll leave that to you.
Sure. No, thank you. Thank you, Greg. So I guess in terms of leachate and comments about leachate, you know, the leachate produced landfill is a function of open working area of the landfill, and this project, if it proceeds, will have similar open areas as what's used now. So the annual leachate production at the facility is not expected to be changed significantly. And regarding cover materials, like there still will be cover materials required at the site. If the landfill's operating longer, there will be more cover materials over the course of its life imported there. You're correct there, but on an annual basis, there wouldn't be a change in the amount of cover material required because we're still servicing the same amount of area, which tonnages should be similar on a year-to-year basis. So that's what that response is. Thank you. Thanks again.
We'll move back to John Adams.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, this isn't working very well. I can hear you, and then every time I get started, I'm going to have to mail in questions. Do I mail, who do I email this into? Because I'd like to review the document. I totally disagree with what was said earlier, where we put generalized statements. When I ask you a question about whether it's leachate production, whether it's going to be 10% more, 20% more, the same, identical, I expect somebody to say, okay, listen, it's not going to be identical, but within 10% it'll be the same. In other words, I expect a quantitative answer, not a general answer. So I think the best way for me to do this is to send you detailed questions and get responses, because otherwise we're going to circle. That's throughout the document. I mean, I've got several of those. So thank you very much. I'll continue to listen in, and I'll send the questions to whoever you want me to send them to. Do I send them to Jen?
So, John, please, if you look at the screen that's presenting, it has two emails you can send your questions to, EIA@gemtech.ca or my personal email.
Okay, good. And are you going to send us your presentation that you gave us today?
The presentation will be posted on the Fundy Regional Service Commission website, listed on the slide.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Linda S., you're up next.
Hi, yes, I'm a resident who lives, been in the area for about 25 years. I have a house in the downstream area, and I was interested in how many of the wells that you approximate are about 1,000 are actually being monitored and how often?
Hi, Linda. Jennifer Hashi is going to answer your question.
Yeah, as part of the landfill's approval to operate, they are required to offer free water sampling to 7 households that were originally identified during the EIA process. And so we, Gemtech, complete that sampling once a year on behalf of the landfill, and that's offered to 70 homes in the area over a range along the Westfield Road communities. That gives us a broad idea of what the chemistry is in the area.
I'm sorry, did you say 7 or 70?
70.
And how many of those are actually agreeing to do that every year?
It changes year per year. This year we collected about 45. Some years we collect up to 65. It just depends on new homeowners and us educating them in the program.
Is there a way to become one of those wells?
The wells were identified during the original EIA process, and the landfill's committed to those same sampling sites so that we're able to track trends over the progress, or not us personally, but the landfill is able to track any trends.
And you had said that that information was available to us somewhere.
It's not available to the public. It is private data collected on behalf of the landfill, and it's sent to Department of Health and to the homeowners that are in the program.
Thank you, Linda. Any further questions? We'll just come back to you. We've got a couple people behind you in the queue, but we can certainly come back. Robert, you've got a question?
Yes, Jennifer or Marco, just a quick question. The landfill gas management plan that either has been prepared or is being prepared by Tetra Tech, will that be available for public review, seeing that it's quite an integral component, I think, of the assessment, and it wasn't in the original EIA?
Sure, yeah, Robert, the document has been submitted to the Department of Environment and local government as a part of the EIA process, so they have the document for review. Technical review. I don't know if there's intentions to post it on the website. You can certainly ask, and the commission will follow up with a response there.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question? Any follow-up for that, Robert?
No, thank you. That's good.
Thank you. Philip Reeves? You're on mute there, Philip. Philip, can you hear us? If not, while we do some troubleshooting with Philip, we'll move back. John Doubt, are there folks waiting to ask questions in your room there?
Can you hear me now? Yes, we have more questions for you, yes.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name's Michelle Lodge. I'm on the committee here. And I just have a quick question. Just in reading through the information, actually may not be picked up for 20 years or more. Is that accurate?
Can I get you to repeat the question a little bit closer to the microphone? Sorry, just having a hard time hearing you.
I also didn't phrase it very well either. So in just some of the reading I did, it seems that I've read that in some of the leachate and the well monitoring that there's a strong possibility that a lot of it doesn't show up for 20 years or more. Is that accurate? Am I getting that right?
Oh, Marco, you're back on mute there.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, we're just discussing here. So I think you're referring to some of the hydrogeological reports that talk about, in the event of an unlikely event of a leak at the landfill, when would that be identified in the wells? And you are correct. It's been concluded by several different studies by different entities that if there were to be a leak at the landfill, it would take a very long time to actually leave the site. Now, fortunately, there is continual monitoring of the under drains at Crane Mountain Landfill. So these drains are located underneath the containment cells and are monitored continually by a auto sampler, and that is a leak detection system. So a leak would be identified long before it would ever be picked up in the downstream wells using this under drain and monitoring system. So you are correct. It would take a very long time for that to be reflected in any downstream wells.
Michelle, do you have a follow-up question?
No.
We have more people here. So.
I'm just going to give Philip Reeves a chance to ask his question. I believe he's available. Philip? No, we had you. You just have to unmute yourself, Philip.
Yes.
Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Philip. Go ahead.
Okay. In a 2009 external review report that was part of the materials that we reviewed, it was indicated that the option to raise the level from 90 meters to 105 meters was considered for an extended period of time and was rejected. And I wanted to know what has changed since then that this proposal is even being considered again.
Hi, Philip. Thank you for the question. So I will defer to Mark McLeod on this, since they're the proponent pursuing this project and makes the decisions on whether or not to proceed. Mark, if you don't mind.
Could we, just for Mark's benefit,
I had a bio break.
he had to run to the washroom there. So, Philip, are you able to repeat your question? Sorry about that.
Yes, in an external review that was conducted in 2009, it was indicated that the option to raise the level from 90 meters to 105 meters was considered for a considerable period of time and was rejected. And I wanted to know what has changed since then that this proposal is even being considered again.
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple of things. First of all, at the time, as I understand it, the consideration to go higher was around the actual footprint of use at the time. So right now, as you can see from the diagram that was provided in the picture, we're on cell number 9. The footprint allows us to go higher. I don't know that the project was ever, or the consideration was ever rejected. It was just stopped at the time. And then now that a couple of the other landfills have decided to go higher, and it's becoming a trend, we'd be remiss if we didn't take a look at it and take the opportunity to give it serious consideration at this time. So that's why we've returned to it. But in the past, there wouldn't have been a big enough footprint to be able to support that triangulation of slope to be able to practically execute the project. So and that's the key part. It is a triangulation. So we're doubling the height, but not the volume. It's about 50%.
Philip, do you have a follow-up question?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you. We'll go back to, I believe your folks are in the KBM. Yeah, so rather than call out John every time, why don't I just reference back to the KBM? Whoever is next in line there, feel free to come to the mic.
Yep. Hello there, it's John Bidgood again. I've got a couple of questions, more than a couple of questions actually. And it kind of leads on from the previous question. In 1997, I presume engineers were involved in the original specs for the landfill. They decided that 90 meters above sea level, in other words, a depth of 20 meters of garbage, was a safe, suitable height for the landfill. Now, we're going to more than double that, according to this idea. I'm kind of curious why, in 1997, the engineers didn't say, let's have over 40 meters depth of garbage. Any ideas why that might have been?
Sure. Thanks again for the question. So unfortunately, I myself and Jen were not involved with the landfill in 97. So we're not entirely sure what the rationale was for the 90-meter elevation. But fortunately, we still have engineers here at Gemtech who have been involved from that time. So we'll have to get back to you on that question. So I don't have an answer for you at this time.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-up?
I have another question if I can ask it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the mitigation slide you showed, it talked about the odor. The odor can be terrible. It spreads all the way to Grand Bay. It's really unpleasant. And the mitigation basically consists of covering it up and trying to capture the methane, whatever gases that are produced. Well, that is going on at the moment, and we have the awful odor. So I can't see how doing the same thing again is going to reduce the odor at all. People have put up with this the last 20 plus years. We were told the landfill will be ceasing its operation in 2037. That seems to have shifted to 2048. Now seems to be, if this goes ahead, 2070. I doubt if I'll still be alive then. I wonder if in 2070 suddenly an even higher depth of garbage will be stored.
Hi, John. Thank you. So I guess just to clarify, the landfill gas collection system wasn't implemented at the landfill in 1997. That came online, I believe, in 2008 as a flare was installed as a part of the gas collection system, and wells and a piping network were installed at that time. So it's been since 2009. I guess the landfill gas collection system is continually improved and expanded as more waste is installed in the landfill. It's not a static thing. You don't just build it once, you're always adding to it. You're adding ways to collect the landfill gas, so that is wells. And those wells put the gas into pipe and directs it into a control device, in this case, a flare or the generator. So in regards to the same plan, working with the higher elevation, there's been a new, master plan developed as a part of the EIA process. As discussed, it was developed by Tetra Tech, who have not been involved with landfill gas design at this site. So it's a new company looking at new options and new ways to collect gas. So yeah, I guess there have been some innovative measures proposed, and the plan is to expand them as this project goes ahead. So,
Mark has, thank you, Marco. And I just want to note here that Mark McLeod also has a follow-up as part of your question.
Yeah, just kind of a current state of affairs, I guess, for the landfills. That we have 21 new wells drilled in 6 years worth of garbage, basically. We were unable during COVID to get the specialized drill rig down to drill those new wells. So we have a 6 years worth of garbage that's not connected to the system. But the contractors actually should be arriving on Thursday to tie all those 21 wells into the system. So you saw the picture earlier in the presentation, and that was the new wells going in. Now those need to be tied into a header system, piping system, and they'll be tied into the landfill gas system as well. These wells, the new wells, are a new technology for us. They're a lot higher performing. They tend to enable us to draw more gas, and because they're twice the diameter, and that's been the experience rating at other landfills. And prior to the 6 years when we weren't able to drill those wells, we've had our system, like Marco said, up and running since 2008, and since then we've rarely had any complaints when the system was hooked up and running. But with that 6 years void of a connection, we're definitely experiencing some odor challenges. But the pipe supply, the component supply, and everything is all here now. Just need to tie it in. We want it to be done this in May, and here we are into October. So hopefully that experience rating we've had over the past few months, where we get it on occasion, is going to stop, and we'll get back to the no complaint level of performance.
Tom, do you have a follow-up question on there?
Well, it'd be nice if it does work. I'm not sure I'm terribly confident it will.
We have a lot of years of experience with it, so I'm hopeful.
Folks, there is we don't have anyone left in the queue, so if you do want to ask a question and you're not currently at the KBM, please raise your hand so you're able to get in line there. But for now, we'll keep the floor open at the KBM.
No, I think we've finished all. Oh, wait a minute. We do have more.
I just have to make a quick comment. Greg Snow again. Thank you guys again for tonight. But you say you don't get complaint calls, but nobody knows to call. I just found out last week that I could have called. nobody knows to call. It's not public knowledge. I don't know, like, people don't know what to do when they smell what they smell and experience what they experience. And let me tell you, it's happening a lot more than you realize. I think you need to reach out to your citizens and ask for their feedback. I don't think you'll be impressed with the results, but thank you.
We do have a couple more questions.
Great, thank you.
Hey gang, Mike Longa here again. Sorry, I don't mean to sound cynical, but I'm going to ask this question the best I can. So the new landfill gas master plan developed by Tetra Tech is basically, from what I heard in 2 questions back, is emerging technology. That is to say, we're doubling the drill hole, or we're catching up on 6 years of not collecting gas, I guess. But I really struggle with why we're letting the landfill materials go to methane over a 30 to 60 year period. I think it's 30 years that it actually takes to drain the methane out of a capped landfill. Why are we doing that and not going direct to energy and incinerating with modern technology? They're both emerging technologies. I'd like to understand why we're going into another 30 years of landfill management in a watershed without evaluating other technology. As a region, I don't think we've done much due diligence, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Marco, I'm not sure if that's a you question or perhaps it's a Mark McLeod question.
I'd say it's a Mark McLeod question, if Mark doesn't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I've had conversations with Mike before, and the well technology that we're using isn't new. It's been tested over the last 10 years. So we're not a first out of the gate. And we've evaluated a number of different technologies over a period of time, and none have satisfied, in my mind anyway, the investment to change over a system. We don't have enough volume for an incinerator, and don't necessarily look at some of these other waste to energy technologies that we've seen a couple crop up in Atlantic Canada. I know, or in North America, sorry, and I know myself, I've visited 6 different facilities reporting commercialization on a lot of these new technologies, and none of them to this point have succeeded. So we're not in a situation like in a Norway or something like that. I know PEI is looking at the centralized heating system and an expansion of that. And again, maybe that's something that can be taken a look at, but that's a whole new dynamic. It wouldn't be on the site at the landfill. That would have to be pursued through probably some public-private partnership, not at the commission at this time. Anyway, we don't see the value add in it. And across North America, landfills are still the #1 utilized technology, and they too are expanding in the sense of their technological development. And so we just haven't seen anything yet. And there isn't many technologies out there we haven't visited looking for alternatives. There's just nothing that's beaten the stage gate yet.
Do you have a follow-up question, Mike? Oh, I think you're on mute there. Follow-up question, Mike? No? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on. Brittany Merrifield?
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm not sure I have the mute off.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I have a question with respect to diversions. My understanding is that 30 to 35% of the material that goes into the landfill is organic. So my question is, why are we focused on just making the garbage pile bigger as opposed to planning for diversions? So we need to ensure that Crane Mountain is implementing measures to divert recyclable materials away from the landfill and develop a year-round program to divert organics in particular. So I guess that's more of a philosophical question than a technical question, but why are we spending all of this time, money, and effort on making the landfill bigger when we should be looking at diversions? Thank you.
Marco, I'll perhaps pass that to Mr. McLeod, if that's okay.
Do you want a Brenda or do you want? I get the answer to that. Well, we certainly, I guess the first thing is that we're one of the few, as you were aware, we're one of the few landfills in the province that offers all streams of service. So we have the garbage service, and we do have year-round compost service as well. The challenge has been, I think, over the last number of years, trying to get the communities to participate, and for those communities that didn't have collection, to get individuals to participate. And so we've seen over the last number of years an uptake in, for instance, Quispamsis was a community that didn't collect, and now they have a collection system. So they bring their, and they're a strong participant in that program. But the problem is that that's the residential waste sector, and they represent 1/3 of our total waste. The rest of our waste is 2/3 in the ICI sector, the institutional, commercial, and industrial sector. And so we have to find ways to divert that material from restaurants to supermarkets and things like that. The majority of that has been done on programs and volunteer programs, which we've worked at over the last number of years. And what we've seen is that as we move forward, and as all the municipalities are coming on board with their systems, we're going to be able to offer more opportunity to divert through limit programs and things like that. That's what's been seen as most effective in other jurisdictions. And we've just had the experience rating here. So what we've seen with the city of St. John, we've seen a reduction of 4,000 metric tons to the landfill projected for a full year. And so the commitment on that is that what we want to do is take that out to the other communities and see if we can get that kind of a commitment by pushing limits on communities. The other thing we're looking at is the region. Moncton has looked at a tiered system for the ICI sector, in the sense of, if we're offering the diversion systems to the municipalities, then at the same time the ICI sector should be held responsible in the sense of their organics diversion, because the municipalities are. So we'll be working on that over the next number of years, but that doesn't preclude the fact that we're still going to see those waste. We're still going to see organics making it into the system, and we're still going to have to set up these gas systems. And for now, we're still going to need landfill space. So even in Halifax, where they have ban programs in place, we're still seeing significant organic load in the landfill system. So anyway, but that's our plan. Our specific plan is to focus more towards limits on the municipal side, and see if we can get some buy-in from the communities on that, and then limits on the through a tiered system. Did I say fear? A tiered system to the industrial sector. So that's the plan. But we've spent $250,000 a year on education, and we're just being selective and targeted in what we want to do, and that's where we're going to focus.
Thanks, Mark. Brittany, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I just, thanks, Mark, for that answer. But, to me, it should be an all hands on deck approach to increasing the diversions, and, as opposed to all of the effort that is currently being expended just to allow more garbage in there. And I accept that you have a plan that the Crane Mountain has a plan going forward, but I believe that there should be a far greater emphasis on the diversions, working with the municipalities, working with the residents, working with all of the parties involved, particularly commercial, if they are the ones that are actually the largest contributors to the landfill, in terms of reducing the amount of garbage that goes into the landfill, which would extend the life of the landfill just by doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a question at the KBN.
Hi there. This should be the last couple of questions from me, which we'll be glad to hear. First of all, a couple of observations. I believe this meeting was scheduled weeks ago. I kept an eye on the Fundy Regional Services Commission Facebook page. They announced the meeting on Friday morning, 10 o'clock Friday morning. The advertisement went into the Telegraph Journal Saturday. Tonight is also a city council meeting, so none of our city councillors could have been here. It appears to me that this meeting has not been very well publicised. It hasn't been put on a date which is terribly convenient, certainly not for our local city councillors who can't attend. And as I say, I didn't receive any mail through the post to inform me about it. My neighbours didn't know the meeting was happening at all. That's not really my question, though. Earlier on, Mark said that the previous in-person meeting concerning the plans for the clay extraction was somehow taken over by people from outside the area. That's not what I saw. I saw a lot of local residents who were very concerned about their drinking water, very concerned about the local environment. I'd like to know where he got the information that these people were from outside the area.
So, I think this is directed at you.
Yeah, well, it would be. I was at the meeting and I sat there and listened to one individual talk for 30 minutes who wasn't from the catchment area. And the discussion was about a specific clay and aggregate pit. And I got direct complaints from members of the organization that you're sitting with that they didn't get the opportunity to speak. So that's where I got my information, was direct and firsthand. But thank you for the question. I was there.
So
I think that kind of situation could have been dealt with in a live meeting without having to go to a virtual meeting, which, from what I can tell, has been very poorly attended.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to move on to Linda S.
Hi, my question's kind of a follow-up to Brittany's thoughts. I know you have taken away the blue boxes with the idea that St. John would become a door-to-door collection of recycling, but that seems to have been short-sighted for some of the other areas, that are in our community. Grand Bay Westfield, certainly for one, but even some of the smaller businesses that might have been using blue boxes to recycle some of their things, and just wondered if there was any thought to bringing those back.
Muted.
Decide on whether this is an operational question or if there's whether or not it's within the scope of the EIA, and whether or not we should be directing Fundy Regional Service Commission to get back to Linda with some more specific answers.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Jennifer. That's I'd say it'd be outside the scope, and that would be a question to the Fundy Regional Service Commission on how they plan to administer recycling in rural areas.
Do you have a follow-up question, Linda?
Actually, it's on a different topic, but it is still pertinent. So we have this board, the CMEI, that is advising the landfill. And I wasn't sure what power they had, if any, to approve or disapprove this change.
I guess I'll go ahead, Mark.
From a regulatory authority perspective, the CMEI exists because of, I believe it's an order and council that came out of the original EIA, and it's actually a contractual agreement between really the commission and Crane Mountain Enhancement, and we fund their annual operating grant, and then they operate independently as a watchdog group, and basically observe and challenge the operations and bring information forward. So they would basically, a number of times, they'll bring information forward on different specific projects or different specific interests, or in this case, bringing in expertise to challenge our views on the merits of this EIA. So EXP is, for instance, in the room with them right now. So that's, but as far as approvals process, it's not an authoritative approach. It's a watchdog.
Thank you, Linda. Moving on to Carrie Burpee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead, Carrie.
Hi. I agree with a lot of the comments here tonight, and I think 30 or so people attending the meeting is clearly not enough. I would hope that there would be consideration for an additional meeting so that we could help spread the word of, the proposal for the landfill. But considering that the plan is to double the amount of garbage, has there been any consideration to increasing the number of wells that are tested, or should a resident be concerned? Should they automatically be approved to have their well tested? So I guess my question is, would anybody be refused if they were concerned about their well water? Would they get a test?
Marco, we'll hand that question to you.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. So your question is to, I guess your statement that they're doubling the amount of garbage in landfill. It's about 50% increase over the approved volume now. It's kind of doubling what is remaining, but it's a 50% increase over the approved volume. And the other question that you had was about additional wells to be added. That would be the well monitoring program is through the approval to operate of the landfill. So that's the regulation that they comply with. So it would have to be altered in that approval to operate for additional well testing. And the idea with the well monitoring is for long-term trends. So the wells that are being sampled now have been sampled for 26 years. So that's where things would be picked up in terms of chemistry changes, that sort of thing. And I think you had another kind of question in there, but I'm having a hard time remembering what it was. Margaret, I guess. Yeah, same thing. I guess same regarding the number of wells drilled to monitor. This project doesn't expand the horizontal footprint of the landfill, so there really wouldn't be any need to do that. And the amount of wells and location of wells are part of the approval to operate from the Department of Environment and local government. So that's what governs those decisions.
Carrie, do you have a follow-up question?
No, thank you.
Yeah, Carrie, sorry. Just to add to that, just so you're aware, is that the system kind of put in place. There's two studies or two things that we worked with the watchdog group on, which was the EXP, who's in the room, did a numerical model of groundwater flow, and there's discussions about the different geography. I don't know what the word is, but anyway, at the end of the day, different formations and water flow and those things, and the wells we're seeing as statistically significant in each of those formations. So and we have developed a program again at the request of the watchdog group, trigger parameter system, which measures the statistical significance of groundwater trends And that's what that's what we do with the well system for monitoring purposes. But yeah, so that's basically about it, just in the sense of we'd have to rejig and include all of those into a trigger parameter system.
Thanks, Mark. We'll go back to folks at the KVM with the question.
It's not a question. I just wanted to add on to what Mark McLeod said earlier about CMEI. We were formed by an order in council from the New Brunswick government. Our job is to monitor the operation of the landfill and to act as the eyes and ears for the local hosting communities. And the hosting communities go all the way from South Bay right the way through to Grand Bay Westfield, all the way through Grand Bay Westfield. And we are here. If you have any ongoing concerns, you can always contact us and talk to us about it, and we will pass your concerns on to the landfill. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Peter Furness.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
A comment first. I don't like this format. I was at the last meeting. There was a gentleman there that kind of took over, but that's up to the facilitators to move on from that gentleman. I would like to see an in-person meeting, and there's not enough information. It seems a little wishy-washy. I question about the wind speed at the top of this pyramid we're going to build, and also what would be the speed of the runoff of the water if we have hurricanes type rains? Thank you.
Marco, I'll send that question to you.
Sure. Hi, Peter. Regarding runoff from the cover once the landfill is built up to the higher elevation, there'd be a series of diversion channels and ditches incorporated into the cap that would capture the runoff and collect it in a controlled manner to prevent washouts and that sort of thing. And that water would then be directed into a sedimentation control system, including ponds and settling ponds and ditches. So, that would have to be taken for account on any future designs of the final caps. There would be consideration for that with the higher slopes, longer slopes. You're correct.
Peter, do you have a follow-up question?
Wind speed at the top of the pyramid. With regards to dumping garbage, it's not waste, it's garbage. This is a dump, remember? I'm sorry, I can't use landfill. It hurts my ears. But with regards to the wind speed, do we have any data on what would be the wind speed? Thank you.
Hi, Peter. It was addressed in the registration document, kind of some standard engineering formulas that are used in industry were used to kind of estimate the increased wind speed at the higher elevations. And that's presented in there. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's, it was identified as their potential for higher wind speeds. But it also discusses how mitigation measures that the landfill currently implements, including movable fencing, daily cover soil to hold the garbage into place. Those would be effective mitigation measures at the higher elevations as they are at the current approved elevation. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Not really. But thank you.
Moving on to Linda S.
Yes, earlier somebody had answered a question regarding the fact that in 2009, there was a height raise contemplated and then that had been dropped. In answering the question, that individual said that it wouldn't have been possible to build a pyramid this high because at that point, the landfill footprint was smaller than it is now. So at some point between 2009 and now, the landfill became bigger. Did we know this?
Yeah, well, I answered that question, Linda, thanks. If we go back, if we can go back to the diagram of the footprint of the landfill, and I can talk our way through it, if that's possible. Who's got the presentation? Marco? I'm not seeing it.
It'll be shared on the screen here momentarily.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, so if we're looking at right now, we're in cell number 9. So each cell 3 or 4 years, depending on the size of the cell. So if we look at cells 1 and 2, that's 6 years. So that takes us to 2003. Cells 3 and 4, another 6 years. That takes us to 2009. So when we look at cell number 4, we can see that the footprint is about half of what it is now. So as we're expanding and filling with garbage, the footprint is expanding. So the point is that 1, 2, 3, and 4 wouldn't have been sustainable as a higher structure. But now with going into cell 9, we would be.
Do you have a follow-up question, Linda? Oh, you're on mute there. No? Okay. We have Mary Reeves up next.
I'm trying, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I would like to reiterate something that has been said before, but I think is a really important point. I heard mentioned that more than 2,000 mailouts occurred within our within our area. Certainly, the variety of people I've spoken to, nobody received any notification of this meeting. And I think that's a very important point to raise. The advertising of this meeting has been really quite poor, and it's certainly only in the last 6 or 7 days that people have heard that it's going to occur. Secondly, it excludes people who cannot or do not access the internet. And I think we have to be conscious of this. Grand Bay likes to brag and talk about being an age-friendly community, but we've discovered and know that many seniors, while they might do email or they may not, they may have internet or they may not, it's very difficult for them to participate in a meeting of this form. So I think it's a great oversight to ignore that demographic in the population. Stats Canada gives you those demographics quite easily now. The more recent census does give you the age of people, but it's to bring to your attention that you're ignoring people who receive things still in paper copies. I give Grand Bay a hard time every once in a while when I'm cranky, is that for seniors not having the old mailouts delivered through the post office, for a lot of our seniors, they became unaware of the many things that are going on. So I only want to reiterate, this is a very incomplete effort to inform our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We have time for one more round of questions. I'm not seeing any hands up though, but maybe this is a bit of a last call for questions. I'll call it out a second time. Last call for questions. Third and final call for a question. Okay, hearing, I should say seeing no hands up, I'll just quickly thank everyone for coming, but I will pass it on to Mark McLeod to say a few final words here before we can send you off into the evening.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to thank everyone for participating. I do know one thing is that we received a lot of great questions tonight, a couple that I hadn't anticipated. So appreciate that. And all the information that the recording will be available, our responses will be available, everything will be publicly laid out. And, you know, as far as next step goes, Gemtech has a lot of questions to answer. So, so it's important for us that we're able to kind of close the loop on the communication side of things. We will take everything into consideration, but anyway, that's about all I had to say. I don't.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Any final words from the Gemtech folks?
No, thanks to everyone for attending, and just a reminder, please email any questions you have to us to the emails listed on this slide. And the pamphlet that was distributed also has my phone number for those who aren't digitally, in the email sort of thing. So that option's there as well. They have my phone number and they can reach out, and those comments will be submitted to the Department of Environment and Local Government as well, in addition to the emails. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, so that's it for this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We look forward to hearing what you have to say moving forward. Thank you and have a good evening.